one thing that has been rather annoying me, that I think you can definitely empathize with, is when I talk about role playing to people, I almost, especially lately, don't want to. Like people that are not into it, and I feel that I'm like, I don't want to be gatekeeping because I'm literally the opposite type of person than that.
Actually, I think the more people we let in, the better time we have. So I'm kind of an ungatekeeper.
Yeah, exactly. But then I try to talk about role playing, and what I find is that people that say, and this is not true for everybody, like, but a lot of people that say that they're interested in role playing, they're actually just interested in the idea of role playing, right? And they're not actually interested in the thing itself, like in the actual.
Well, you say the idea, but I would actually say the subculture rather than the idea.
Yeah, the subculture or whatever. Like you, right. You could even say the religion, but I don't think
that only applies in some cases, I think. But go on.
Yeah, it only applies to a minority, right? If you talk about the kind of essentialism, right. But definitely to the subculture. Like it's cool now, it's hip. You're like different, and you watch all of these like Critical Role, and you feel like where the voice actors are playing, and you feel like, oh yeah, cool. It's so cool to be playing Dungeons and Dragons. And I got nothing against Dungeons and Dragons, by the way. Like some editions are perfectly fine games, but I have the feeling that these people that, and I don't want to sound dismissive as well, but I find it very frustrating to talk about role playing to people because their objective in participating in this is not the same as mine. And so whenever I talk about, okay, like you want to try something new, something cool, they don't even think about it because the idea is like, oh, why would I be playing anything else than D&D or whatever is like hot at the moment? And that for such a person, it's not really important to have fun. They do have fun occasionally, but it's more important to establish that we've done this. And
well, it also becomes easier when you realize you can do that without even doing it. Right? There are plenty of Sean. You've been in this a long time, just like me. You know a lot of people who consider themselves expert role players who haven't hit the table in decades.
I think this was happening before as well, but I don't think it was happening that much with previous editions of D&D. I think that Wizards of the Coast really hit it, like with the marketing with this one, and they are really encouraging this. They're pushing the game everywhere with the Rick and Morty and the Stranger Things crossovers. They're trying to put make it into like one of these like lifestyle brands that you participate in and feel good about yourself. And it's not really, and if you read the new DMG, Dungeon Master's Guide, it's probably the worst one they've ever written. And then you realize that there is a financial incentive for them to give bad advice about their own game.
Right.
Because the entire point and the entire and maybe the base game is even like not as bad as like people say, but there isn't.
I consider it a deeply average role playing game in terms of design. But go on.
It's like it's like not great, it's not bad, and the financial incentive is because they don't want people to have fun by themselves, right? To make up their own stories. What are they gonna buy if they make up their own stories? No, there's all of these supplements, and you can notice it because D&D 4 was selling player choices. That was their business plan. D&D 5 is selling adventure modules,
right?
And setting books.
Well, they're converting back to the Pathfinder model, which was the 3.0 model. But I think we're getting. I think D&D, as usual, is sucking us into a black hole in this conversation.
Yeah. No, but so the point is, I get really frustrated about this because I don't even know how to then approach sharing this with other people. Because as soon as I share it, they're like, "Oh yeah, that cool brand. Like, can I join in?" And like, no, don't do that.
Okay. I like to use these metaphors perhaps too much, but the martial arts analogy is quite good in this regard. There comes a point when a person just kind of stops talking about it, except to other people who not just identify socially, say, oh yeah, I study martial arts too. And they go, oh good, blah, 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 blah. No, they still wait. Musicians are the same, right? Musicians are exactly the same. They will be happy to talk music. But first, they're not going to just talk to anybody and everybody. Second, they're not going to talk to anybody who just happens to play music. They're going to wait until they recognize that that person is on their wavelength about it and isn't involved, even if the person's heavily embedded in the subculture of music and is a celebrity or something, you wait and see if you really want to talk to that person about this or not. Comics, same way. Comics are terrible for this. Comics fandom is so heavily invested in its subculture that they can't even fucking read their comics. And they'll tell you all about what this character's like and what that character can do and everything. And they'll be sort of Talmudic about their evidence. Well, in this issue, he does this, and in that issue, he does that. But they've completely missed the point that comics professionals don't create their characters out of a character sheet and then then write that character according to what that character can do. There isn't an is. All that data that these people are siphoning up about what their character can do was not created from any such attitude. But the comic book fans will never get that. Did you know, I mentioned this in my blog, did you know that comic book pros have a physical signal that they use at conventions?
I did not know that.
They have a physical signal that I will not demonstrate to you, which tells other professionals, get me the hell away from this fan. I can't take it anymore. I know everybody knows that you go to the comic book convention and you have a nice time talking with the fans, and their love for what you do is very nice, but they are intolerable and insufferable after a certain point, or in certain specific cases. And every pro knows you can't take it anymore after a while. And you make the gesture, and then all of a sudden, woof, here's my friend. Oh, wow, you're that artist. Wow, says the fan. And the first guy, Miguel, makes their escape quickly. Right? And I bet musicians do the same thing. I don't know musicians well enough to professional or active musicians well enough. But
there's no sign that I know of.
Yeah, but in comics there is. And so
Mm-hmm. I don't want to be too much of I subscribe to most of what you said. I just want to specify that I don't really feel that these people are bad meaning or whatever. They're not malicious. And
then you haven't hung out with enough comic book fans.
Well, okay, there are some of them are malicious. I'm just saying that some of them are just excited and overzealous.
No, right? That's very true. And sometimes that enthusiasm can translate into great conversations. That's very true. And also, I'm cautious because I don't want to turn it into a professional versus audience distinction.
Exactly.
That distinction is not quite the boundary. I say comic book pros because, unfortunately, that boundary has become so solid in the culture of comics that it has created something of that effect. But it's definitely not intrinsic. So I agree with you. I mean, we don't want to find the defining boundary at that kind of level. But particularly in role-playing, when there is no author-audience distinction in the activity itself, well, people keep trying to make it. They keep trying to make a designer versus customer, right, boundary. They keep wanting to make that. That's why I'm so insistent that a role-playing game designer is just another role player with a problem, right? Not, over here in the creative zone, in the, in the good people, in the privileged elite, talented people zone, right? That's not the distinction at work here.
I think I heard somebody say that game design is a disease.
No, personality disorder. That's me.
You exactly. Yeah, it's
no. There's with two degrees. Designing at all is a mild personality disorder, which can fortunately be managed, and that's great. But the severe form, which really ought to be medicated or something, is the urge to publish the designs. It's not. And I'm usually kind of joking when I say that, and then I examine what I just said, and I suddenly realize that I'm a lot more serious than I thought. But anyway, but that's the point, though, is to try to break down that idea. I can criticize the people I'm talking about, and they apply across the whole range of publishing, design, and commerce, anywhere in that whole set of interaction. The distinction is real. Are we here to do this thing as opposed to something else with these people this time? With all the risks that entails, right? It's a risk. You don't know how well it's going to go this time. If you're doing something authentically, playing music, writing a story, taking photographs, whatever it is, the chance for it not to go all that great this time is real. And has to be treated as a social reality. So a game, like I keep saying, a game that guarantees that you get a perfectly fine story every time, like most of the so-called story games guarantee it, well, you just lost my interest. You just gave me one of those kids' coloring books or sticker books where you just take out the stickers and put them in all the spots, which admittedly has a certain appeal in terms of organization of space, and I have been known to stick a sticker in a sticker book with my kids, but it's not.
It's almost like toy design as opposed to
maybe I tend to that one gets tricky too, because then they talk about games versus toys and they mean something else. So it gets really weird.
Maybe it's too much to.
Yeah. Again, it's one of those things where the vocabulary gives us trouble. Well, anyways, I think that went on like 10 million years longer than I planned, but thank you everybody for your time. I appreciate it. I don't know.
Thank you, Ron.
Did anybody else want to say anything specific that came to mind about learning before we go?
Is anyone looking forward to working on learning anything else, or do we want to get into that, or do you need to go, Ron?
No, it's a good question, and I think maybe we'll save it. I know that I really want to learn more now. What I was talking about recently, given what has just happened in play, what is the range of methods for what is happening now? What is happening next?
Mm-hmm.
Right. I know I struggled with this or tried to teach it in Troll Babe as well as I could. But having played a lot of games lately where there's literally nothing to go there with.
Right.
And I find myself, and you can be distracted by improvement, right? You just say, well, my character's leveled up, so now that's a new normal, so that's good.
Right.
I'm interested in what the new normals of role-playing are. Scene to scene, session to session, arc to arc, whatever.
Well, one last thing, I'll try to be brief. I haven't played as many games as I want to, more so for a problem of time, but also, there's like a lot of games on the kind of classics list that I haven't managed to play, and probably what I'm going to try to do in the future is play them. Mm-hmm. So like Sorcerer, mm-hmm. I really want to play the Solar System. Mm-hmm. I want to try playing Troll Babe again and not fucking it up.
Ah, well, Hey, that's something that I'm hoping people learn. I'll toss this in. I'm hoping people learn that it is okay. I wish Greg were still here in the conversation for this. It's okay to bork things as a process of learning. You know, the world will not end. It's okay. Yeah.
Well, I would just say that without having to use any jargon, once you have Troll Babe or Sorcerer one day part of the Dragon Lotus in your hands, what you do with it, is it becomes a different game in Claudio's hands than it is in Ron's.
Absolutely, yeah. It's not replication of my experience. That's not what we're doing.
Right, yeah, and I think a lot of people don't realize, because they try to run Sorcerer perfectly, and the first thing I did when I first saw Sorcerer was like, I wonder how I could do something different with this than everybody else is doing. That was my first instinct.
Right, and that's right.
Yeah, so I don't worry about messing it up.
Yeah,
much.
I think that there's an important point, though, is that sharing that messing up with each other is actually a big deal. That's what that's what I really want to see more of, and I've been seeing a lot of it, which is good, is the willingness to say, well, this isn't working, or I don't get it, or, hey, everybody, look, I did it, and somebody goes.
It's hard to put that out into the void. That's something where like a group talk might be helpful.
I completely agree, but the occasional, in certain pairings of people in text, it's actually worked out okay. And for just those as a few isolated examples, it'll make it easier for people to share in a group discussion. In fact, that's a good Monday Lab one of these days, right? How I screwed it up. How we misplayed this. And I don't mean like Sean's talking about, like a creative misplay, a form of game design, really, right? Tweaking what you've got and messing with it. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about, okay, I'm playing this. I'm learning how to do it. We're going to play this game. Hey, we did it. And then you're like, somebody, either you later or somebody goes, you cannot properly say you played that. You just can't. You can, not even any shame on you, but just, if you want to learn to play it, you're still on the curve. Right.
Yeah. Okay, so I probably shouldn't say what I wanted to say as my famous last words.
No, please do.
But I want to play and learn more games, different games. And I think the only thing I want to play again is actually Troll Babe. I want to take my Troll Babe to different groups, to different people, because I want to see how the experience is different.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I want to repeat, and that's not really repeat. I just want to that's something that is small enough to carry somewhere else and do it again.
Right.
I could hop on that train.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, everybody, thank you very much. I'll see you later. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.